Darkness, silence, and a hopeless crowd trapped between death and an endless sea. Waves roared like monstrous walls, rising higher and higher as if the entire ocean had awakened with fury. The sky above trembled with stormy winds, and thousands of frightened men, women, and children stood frozen on the shore, staring at the impossible. Behind them, the earth shook under the marching footsteps of the most powerful army the world had ever seen, Pharaoh's soldiers. Their chariots sliced through the desert, their armor glistening like fire, their war cries echoing across the land. And in the middle of this terror stood one man, prophet, a leader, a servant of Allah, Musa, a.s., his staff in hand, his face calm, yet his heart burning with trust in the Lord of all worlds. But before this incredible moment, before the sea itself silently waited for its command, something else happened. Something mysterious. Something that would change the fate of an entire nation. Why were Musa a.s. and his people pushed to the edge of an impossible trap? How did they reach a place where every path meant certain death? And what happened next is a miracle that continues to shake hearts even today. Some say the waves whispered secrets that night. Some say the angels themselves descended, watching the unfolding decree of Allah. And some say the miracle was written long before the world even existed. But one thing is certain. What happened at the Red Sea was not just a miracle, it was a declaration. A message to tyrants, a hope for the oppressed, and a reminder that when all doors close, Allah creates a path where no path exists. Imagine the scene, the children of Israel, exhausted and terrified, looking up to Musa s. with trembling eyes. "Ya Musa," they cried, "Pharaoh is behind us. The sea is before us, we are finished." But Musa s. simply looked at the roaring sea, then at the sky above, and whispered the words that would remain eternal. "No, indeed my Lord is with me. He will guide me. And what happened after this will leave you in awe." A single command, a divine instruction, a moment that defied every law of nature. The sea split, not gently, not quietly, but with a thunderous force that shook the earth and the heavens. Two towering walls of water rose on both sides, massive, shimmering, powerful, held in place by the will of Allah alone. But why did Allah choose this miracle? What hidden wisdom lay behind this extraordinary moment? And how did Pharaoh, the tyrant who claimed to be a god, meet his final end in these very waters? As we begin this cinematic journey into the untold depth of the story of Musa, a.s., and the Red Sea, stay with us till the end, because what happens next is not just history. It is a lesson, a warning, and a miracle that continues to echo through time. The land of Egypt, centuries ago, was a world of splendor and tyranny intertwined. The Nile flowed like a lifeline through the heart of the land, its waters nurturing fields of gold and green. Luxurious palaces rose along its banks, shining under the relentless sun, while markets overflowed with spices, silks, and treasures from distant lands. But beneath this grandeur, the shadow of oppression loomed large. Pharaoh, the king who claimed divinity, ruled with an iron fist. No one dared speak against him, and those who did were punished cruelly. Families were torn apart, and cries of anguish echoed through villages. Slavery was a way of life. The children of Israel, who had once thrived in these lands, were now shackled, forced to labor endlessly under the scorching sun. And yet, amid this darkness, hope had not vanished entirely. A man named Musa, a.s., had grown among the people, nurtured by Allah's guidance even before he realized his true purpose. His childhood had been filled with trials. Saved from Pharaoh's decree to kill all newborn boys of the Israelites, Musa a.s. was placed into the waters of the Nile in a small basket. It was Allah who guided the basket safely to Pharaoh's palace, where Musa a.s. was raised as a prince among the very people whose chains he would one day break. Musa a.s. grew into a man of profound wisdom and courage, yet gentle humility defined him. He would walk among the people, listening to their woes, witnessing their pain, and feeling the weight of oppression that no ordinary man could endure without despair. But Musa was not alone. Allah had chosen him, and with this divine selection came miracles hidden in ordinary moments. A staff that would later command the waters, a hand that would glow with divine light, and guidance that could pierce the veil of the impossible. Meanwhile, in the lands around Egypt, whispers of rebellion and fear traveled swiftly. Pharaoh's advisors were loyal, but even they began to sense a change. Rumors spread of a man who spoke boldly against tyranny, a man whose faith was unshakable, whose resolve seemed to echo the power of the Almighty. Yet for every whisper of hope, Pharaoh's heart grew colder. He refused to acknowledge that any force could challenge his claim to godhood. His pride blinded him, making him deaf to reason, human compassion, and even the warnings of his own counselors. Among the Israelites, life was a struggle of endurance. Families huddled together at night, whispering stories of past freedom, tales of lands beyond the desert where faith still flourished. Yet every morning brought the same harsh reality: forced labor, merciless overseers, and the looming shadow of Pharaoh's wrath. It was in this world of despair and longing that Musa received the greatest command: to confront Pharaoh, to demand freedom, and to remind a tyrant that no man, no matter how mighty, stands above the will of Allah. This was a time when miracles were not just signs but lessons, when every event, every challenge, and every act of oppression carried a divine message. And it was against this backdrop, the grandeur of Egypt, the suffering of the Israelites, and the arrogance of Pharaoh, that the stage was set for an event that would echo through history: the Exodus, the escape, and the miraculous parting of the Red Sea. The world seemed calm, yet tension simmered like a storm waiting to break. Musa had returned from Midian, guided by Allah, ready to confront the tyrant. His eyes held a determination that could not be shaken. His words were imbued with divine authority, and his heart carried the prayers of a people who had long forgotten hope. This was no ordinary mission. This was a confrontation between the will of Allah and the pride of a king who believed himself immortal. The sun blazed high over Egypt, casting long shadows of the massive pyramids that seemed to watch silently over the city. Inside Pharaoh's palace, gold glimmered from every corner, but no wealth could hide the unease that had begun to creep into the heart of the tyrant. Rumors of a man named Musa had reached his ears, a man who spoke boldly of a God greater than Pharaoh himself, a man whose staff moved with mysterious power, whose words carried the weight of heaven. Pharaoh's voice thundered through the halls. "Bring him to me," he commanded. "Let me see the one who dares challenge my authority." His advisors hesitated. "Your Majesty, he is dangerous. Some say his God has granted him miracles beyond human understanding." Pharaoh's eyes narrowed. "Miracles? I am a god. There is no power above me." Meanwhile, far from the palace, Musa stood before the Israelites, a calm yet resolute figure. "My people," he said, his voice echoing across the camp, "Allah has heard your cries. The oppression of Pharaoh cannot last forever. We must trust him and prepare for what is to come." A young man stepped forward, his eyes wide with fear and hope. "O Musa we cannot fight Pharaoh. He has armies, chariots. His strength is beyond ours." Musa looked at him gently. "Do not fear what is beyond your control. Fear only Allah and follow his guidance. When the path seems impossible, Allah creates a way." At that moment, a messenger arrived from Pharaoh. "He refuses to obey, my lord. He claims a God who commands the skies and the seas." Pharaoh slammed his fist against the marble table. "Then he must be shown the consequences of defiance." The Israelites watched in silent dread as Pharaoh's army prepared for retaliation. Horses snorted, chariots rattled, and the ground seemed to tremble with the march of thousands. Musa stood calm, holding his staff, his eyes lifting to the heavens. "Allah," he whispered, "grant us strength, guide us, and protect your servants." The first confrontation came swiftly. Musa approached Pharaoh, speaking with words that were both firm and filled with mercy. "O Pharaoh, release the children of Israel from bondage. "Do not defy Allah, for no king on earth can withstand his command." Pharaoh laughed, a sound cold and mocking. "Musa, do you come here to mock me? I am Pharaoh. I am the Lord of this land. Your God is no match for my power." With that, Pharaoh ordered his magicians to challenge Musa as. Spells were cast, rods turned to snakes, illusions filled the air. But Musa guided by Allah, revealed the truth. His staff turned into a serpent that swallowed the illusions. His hand shone with divine light, and the people of Egypt gasped at the undeniable power that came not from wealth, armies, or pride, but from Allah himself. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. He refused to release the Israelites, and his cruelty grew more severe. "If you leave this land," he roared, "I will chase you and bring every drop of blood to your people." And so the stage was set. The Israelites began their journey into the unknown, fleeing the chains of slavery with hearts trembling, yet filled with faith. Pharaoh, consumed by arrogance and rage, gathered his army, determined to crush them once and for all. The journey led them to the shores of the Red Sea. Behind them, the thunder of chariots grew louder with every heartbeat. In front, the vast, seemingly endless waters blocked their path. Panic threatened to consume the people. "We are trapped, O Musa," they cried. "There is no escape." Musa lifted his staff and spoke words of divine trust. "Do not despair. Allah will guide us. Stand firm, and you will witness his power." And that was the moment that would ignite a miracle remembered for all time. The moment when the sea, mountains, and sky themselves would obey the command of Allah, revealing a path where none existed. What happened next would leave Pharaoh, his army, and the world in awe. The Israelites stood frozen on the sandy shore, the Red Sea stretching endlessly before them. Behind them, the distant sound of Pharaoh's army grew louder, each thunderous hoofbeat a reminder of the impossible trap closing in. Women clutched their children. Men gripped makeshift weapons, though they knew there was no match for chariots, armor, and thousands of trained soldiers. The air was thick with fear, uncertainty, and the salty sting of the sea breeze. But Musa did not waver. His eyes, calm and focused, scanned the horizon, then lifted to the sky. "Do not lose hope," he called to his people. "The one who created the heavens and the earth can create a way where none exists. Trust him." Some of the Israelites whispered to each other, doubt flickering in their eyes. "How can a sea part? How can a wall of water rise to let us pass?" Others clung to Musa, their hearts trembling yet filled with a strange warmth, a quiet certainty that Allah would not abandon his servants. The story of this moment, as some sources say, carries lessons not only in miracles but in patience, trust, and divine wisdom. Behind the physical danger, an unseen truth unfolded, the test of faith. This was not just a journey across water. It was a trial for hearts, a purification of fear and doubt. Those who trusted would witness a miracle. Those who faltered would falter in spirit. Musa lifted his staff high, the wood worn smooth by years of service, a symbol of Allah's guidance. "In the name of Allah, the most merciful," he whispered, "move forward." And then he struck the ground with his staff, and the wind picked up, a fierce, almost supernatural gust that whipped across the surface of the sea. The waters began to churn violently, waves crashing as though resisting an invisible force. And then, as if by the command of an unseen hand, the waves parted. Towering walls of water rose on both sides, glistening in the sunlight, shimmering like liquid crystal. The sound was deafening, the roar of the sea, yet strangely silent at the same time, as if the water itself held its breath. The people of Israel gasped. Some fell to their knees, weeping in awe, others froze in disbelief. Children laughed and cried simultaneously, unsure how to process the miracle before their eyes. "It is the mercy of Allah," one woman whispered. "He has heard our prayers." Musa led them forward, walking calmly between the walls of water. Each step was guided, each heart bolstered by faith. Yet the tension did not end here. Pharaoh, consumed by arrogance, watched from the shore. His eyes widened in disbelief and fury. "Impossible," he shouted. "No man, no God, can defy me." He gave a command, and the chariots plunged into pursuit. Soldiers tried to follow the Israelites through the miraculous pathway, their horses and wheels tearing the sand beneath them. But the sea, controlled by the will of Allah, waited for the final moment to reveal its true power. As they moved through the parted waters, some Israelites faltered, looking back with fear. "Is it safe? Will the walls collapse?" they cried. Musa reassured them, his voice calm and unwavering. "Allah commands. He is the protector. Follow and do not look back in doubt." It was here, amid this miraculous corridor, that deeper lessons revealed themselves. The story of Musa at the Red Sea, some scholars say, is not only about a physical escape but about the spiritual truth. When humans rely on wealth, armies, or their own cunning, they falter. But when they place their trust in Allah, even the impossible becomes possible. Meanwhile, Pharaoh's pride blinded him further. He could not accept that a people he considered slaves were now being saved by a force beyond his understanding. He called to his magicians and advisors. "Bring your magic, break this spell, crush them." But magic, sorcery, and arrogance have limits before divine power. The waters obeyed only Allah. The walls held firm, creating a path wide enough for the Israelites, while Pharaoh's chariots raced blindly behind, unaware that the true test of the sea was yet to come. Inside this miraculous passage, time seemed suspended. Birds circled above, startled by the unnatural walls of water. Fish swam in midair, caught within the suspended currents. The Israelites could see the ocean floor, strange creatures moving through the submerged world. It was both terrifying and breathtaking, a world revealed only by the mercy of Allah. Some of the older men whispered to each other, recalling the prophecies of past messengers. All that has happened was foretold. Allah's power is absolute. Pharaoh's arrogance will be his undoing. Musa maintained a serene composure, guiding his people step by step. "Remember," he said, "faith does not remove the test. It only gives you the strength to endure it." And in the background, the forces of Pharaoh grew impatient. They pressed forward recklessly, their arrogance blinding them to reason, to fear, to the mercy that had saved the Israelites. Every soldier believed they could challenge the miraculous. Every chariot was gripped with fury, yet none could defy the decree of Allah. Then came the final secret of this divine moment. The parting of the sea, some scholars explain, was not only a physical miracle but a test of hearts. Those who truly believed and followed Musa would pass unharmed. Those who clung to arrogance, pride, or disbelief would face the consequences. It was mercy and justice in perfect balance, lessons hidden in the unfolding miracle. As the Israelites approached the far shore, fear turned to cautious relief. The impossible pathway seemed endless, yet every step brought them closer to freedom. Each heart, once heavy with despair, now glowed with gratitude and awe. Children ran through the sand, their laughter echoing, while elders wept softly, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the mercy they had witnessed. Musa turned once to look at Pharaoh, whose army now neared the center of the miraculous path. "This is the lesson of arrogance," he whispered, almost to himself. "No power of man can oppose Allah. No pride can withstand his command." And so, the stage was set for the final confrontation, the climax where arrogance, tyranny, faith, and divine power would collide in a moment that would be remembered for all eternity. What happened next? The fate of Pharaoh and the army, the final miracle of the Red Sea, is a story of justice, mercy, and the absolute power of Allah that continues to inspire awe across centuries. The air trembled as the Israelites neared the opposite shore. The walls of water, towering and powerful, held steady, shimmering in the sunlight. Each step felt surreal. Children ran between the columns of liquid, their laughter a fragile sound against the deafening roar of the sea. Adults whispered prayers, holding hands, hearts pounding with a mix of fear, awe, and gratitude. Behind them, Pharaoh's army pressed on, unaware that the very force they sought to challenge was about to become their undoing. Chariots charged, wheels splashing into the shallow water, swords gleaming in the reflected light. Pharaoh rode at the front, his eyes wild with rage and disbelief. "No, this cannot be," he shouted. "I am the god of this land. I am invincible." But pride blinds even the greatest of tyrants. Pharaoh could not see the danger that approached with divine precision. Every step of his soldiers carried arrogance, disbelief, and disobedience, qualities that could not stand against Allah's command. Musa raised his staff one last time, not in fear, but in full submission to Allah's will. His voice, calm yet commanding, whispered over the water, "Move by the decree of Allah." And then, in an instant, the sea turned against the oppressors. The walls of water, once held aloft by divine mercy, collapsed with a thunderous roar. Waves surged like armies of the deep, rushing forward with unstoppable force. Pharaoh's chariots were swallowed by the swirling waters. Soldiers screamed, their cries drowned by the roaring sea. The path that had once been a miracle for the faithful now became a grave for the arrogant. Pharaoh himself struggled to keep his chariot afloat, eyes wide with terror. "Help! Someone! Save me!" But there was no one to answer. The waves, immense and merciless, engulfed him. Pride, arrogance, and disbelief, all that he had clung to, were swept away in an instant. His final moments were a stark reminder. No human power can resist the will of Allah. The Israelites watched in awe and silence, hearts still racing, as the waters returned to their natural state. They had crossed safely, untouched, guided and protected by divine command. Relief washed over them like a gentle wave, and tears flowed freely, tears of joy, gratitude, and reverence. Some of the elders spoke quietly among themselves, reflecting on what they had witnessed. "This is the power of Allah," one whispered. "The one who parts the seas for his faithful can humble even the mightiest king." Musa looked back once at the shore where Pharaoh's army had vanished beneath the waves. "Do not rejoice in the downfall of others," he said softly, "but remember the mercy of Allah that saved us. Today is a lesson of faith, trust, and obedience." The story, as some scholars interpret, holds a profound secret. The miracle was not only a rescue but also a revelation. The sea parted, yes, but only for those who believed, who trusted Allah completely. Those who relied on their own power, who clung to pride and tyranny, were consumed by the very waters they thought they could command. Divine justice and mercy were intertwined, lessons hidden within the unfolding miracle. Even centuries later, the moment remains etched in history and hearts alike. It is not just the physical splitting of the sea that captures attention, but the spiritual truth behind it. No amount of wealth, armies, or arrogance can overcome the will of Allah. The story of Musa, and the Red Sea is a timeless reminder that faith, patience, and complete reliance on Allah can bring the impossible into reality. As the Israelites stood on the safe shore, the sun dipped low, casting golden reflections across the water. They looked back in silence, awestruck and humbled, knowing they had witnessed a moment that would never be forgotten. And the lesson remained: power without obedience is destruction. Trust without faith is fragile. Mercy with guidance is eternal. Musa gathered his people. "Remember this day," he said, "and walk always in the path of Allah, for He is the one who saves, the one who guides, and the one who commands all things." The Red Sea closed behind them, a monument to divine intervention, a warning to the arrogant, and a source of hope for the oppressed. Pharaoh and his army were gone, but the lesson endured. True power is nothing without humility before Allah, and no tyrant can escape divine justice. And thus, the climax of this epic journey concluded, not with human triumph, but with divine mercy and the eternal reminder that Allah's will is absolute. As the Israelites stood on the safe shore, their hearts still racing and bodies exhausted, a profound silence settled over them. The roaring of the sea had ceased, and in its place was the whisper of the wind and the soft lapping of the waves. A gentle reminder that Allah's mercy is always present, even after moments of fear and trial. Musa turned to his people, his eyes filled with compassion and wisdom. "Today, you have witnessed the power of Allah," he said. "Not because of my staff, not because of my words, but because of your faith and trust in Him." This is the lesson of every trial. Obedience to Allah leads to salvation, while arrogance and pride lead only to destruction. The people of Israel knelt and raised their hands in prayer, tears flowing freely. Their hearts, once heavy with fear, were now filled with gratitude. Children clutched their parents, elders whispered words of thanks, and even those who had doubted felt a new light of hope ignite within them. The story of the Red Sea, as some scholars explain, is more than a historical miracle. It is a timeless lesson for every generation. Faith is strength. When fear surrounds you, and the path seems impossible, trust in Allah's guidance. Even when human understanding fails, divine wisdom prevails. Patience is power. The Israelites had endured years of oppression, witnessing cruelty, injustice, and despair. Yet their perseverance, coupled with trust in Allah, led them to freedom. Humility is salvation. Pharaoh's downfall serves as a reminder that no worldly power can match the will of Allah. Pride blinds the heart and leads to ruin, while humility opens the door to mercy. And finally, mercy is eternal. The sea parted not to glorify Musa, or punish Pharaoh alone, but to show humanity that Allah's mercy and justice are intertwined. The righteous are guided, the arrogant are humbled, and the lessons echo through time for all who listen. Musa looked at the horizon, where the sun began its descent. "Remember this moment, my people," he said. "Hold faith in your hearts. Follow the commands of Allah. Stand firm against injustice, and always trust in His mercy. For power without faith is nothing, and courage without guidance is lost." As the Israelites took their first steps toward freedom, the lesson was clear. No obstacle is too great when Allah guides you, no tyrant too strong when His protection surrounds you, and no fear too deep when trust in Him lights your way. And so, the story of the Red Sea remains not just a miracle of history, but a living testament, a reminder that faith, humility, and reliance on Allah turn the impossible into the possible, and that true freedom comes only through obedience to the One who controls all things. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, the Israelites walked forward into a future filled with hope and freedom. The miracle of the Red Sea had passed, but its lesson remained eternal. Faith in Allah can move mountains, patience can overcome oppression, and humility protects the heart from the destruction of arrogance. May Allah guide us all to the straight path, protect us from the pride and arrogance that blind our hearts, and grant us the strength to trust Him in moments of fear and uncertainty. May He fill our lives with His mercy and keep us steadfast in faith, just as He guided Musa, and his people through trials that seemed impossible. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it, and subscribe for more inspiring tales of faith, miracles, and divine guidance. We would love to hear from you. What part of the story amazed you the most? Have you ever experienced a moment where faith helped you overcome the impossible? Share your thoughts in the comments below.